is a bit of my interview with Lola. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel G. Wilson, and welcome to the Lingua Franca interview series. This is episode 3, and joining us today is the illustrious and amazing Lola. Uh, Please forgive me if I mispronounce the name. I love the Spanish language, but I am still an Anglophone, so I I might mispronounce stuff without realizing it.
No, no, it's totally cool. You know what? I don't even like. I mean, we didn't even spell it properly. I don't know if I ever told you the story behind the name.
Ooh.
Do
Oh,
you want me to tell you?
oh yes, but let me finish the introductions first. I'm excited now.
Sure. Well, I mean, I hope I can explain this properly. But so a bunch of years back, when we first started the project, we were looking obviously at a bunch of different band names because we didn't know what direction we were going to go in. But there was like a lot of things that were happening at the time that were, I don't know, just like our lives were changing. There was kind of like a, I guess, like a sad undertone to a lot of things that were happening. I had lost a friend of mine who was really important to me. And so I don't know, we were just kind of like looking at names. And then we came across the name Dolores, which is actually the name of like a lot of our family members. So Lola is actually the short form for Dolores. And Dolores means sorrows, like literal, she is the lady of sorrows. Now, we love the name Lola because we always thought it was just such a beautiful name. But the thing was, there were so many bands that had the name Lola, like Lola, and we're like, what the hell are we gonna do with this? So I'm not even kidding. We just slapped another A on it, and so that's why it has two A's.
I love it.
It's like literally that simple. We're like, yep, just slap another A on it.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple.
Nice, nice. All right, now since we've discussed your name, which I actually want to ask about that. I was gonna ask about that. Please introduce yourselves to the wonderful people at home.
Oh yes, that would probably be a good idea, wouldn't it? I'm Lex, and I'm the singer and 50% of the songwriter of Lola. I'm Nadia, and I play bass and also songwrite.
Awesome, awesome. Ah, now I have so many questions. I have so many questions for
Oh
both of you.
God.
um, One of my most pressing questions I have to ask now. I have to ask like, in terms of it's just kind of what is very apparent to me. Like, how like what what got you into playing music? Like, the amount of instruments I've seen, like particularly like Val, like how many instruments can you play?
Well, I can play bass, drums. I can I know how to.
write like melodies on keyboard, and then I can play like hooks on guitars too, and like make guitar parts, but I'm not like a pro or anything.
She can sing backup vocals too,
No.
but she fights me on it all the time, and she won't do it.
But we're self-taught. So we basically just pick them up and we're like, oh, let's write together, and that's how we learned.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm self-taught, and I'm self-taught, and I look at the amount of talent y'all have, and I'm just like, yep. I'm gonna quit.
No, you're very talented.
Yeah, you
are
definitely
talented.
like you're very talented. Like we always said that for us, like the goal was, like it was never about us being really good at any instrument. Really, it was just like if we could write a song that like sticks in people's minds or like reaches their hearts, that's probably the most important thing for us. You know, the songwriting. So we always it was funny because I remember when we first started, like even in our previous project, Magneta Lane, there was so many people that would criticize like our style of playing and how we would play. And we're like, dude, we just want to play and write music. Like we don't give a shit if we're not shredding this properly or like according to Royal Conservatory of Music crap. You know what I mean? Which is not crap. I do respect the Royal Conservatory of Music, but come on, like that stuff is not necessary. It's like songwriting, right? Like I just feel like it's a form of expression. So like as long as you can create something, if it makes you happy and you know makes other, you know, maybe you can inspire people through your words, that's like the most important thing.
Agreed. Who would criticize you? Your band rocked. Like.
Oh, thank you. Your band rocks too.
Oh, thank you. You're gonna make me blush. Now, speaking of previous previous bands, in terms of, I guess, who I've talked to so far on the interview series, I think you two are kind of like have been involved in like the Toronto music scene, I guess, the longest. Because I first knew about your band when I was like your previous outfit when I was
You can say it, Daniel. We're old. It's fine.
You're not that old.
I'm kidding.
My older brother and sister my older brother and sister. They're old compared to me. they're like almost 40, but I remember seeing your first band, like your previous band, like when I first tried to kind of know about like local musicians, stuff like that, about 10 years ago, and even up to then, you guys have been around for a while. So my question with that is this goes into, well, I'll ask further on, particularly as like, you know, as like Latinx like musicians, particularly in like, you know, the early mid 2000s in Toronto. What was that like? What was that like back then? Like, you know, what was that like compared to say now? Like, I imagine.
Oh man.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, like I mean, so many things came into play, I think, at that point. But if I'm being completely honest, and you know, it's nice to see that the world is like now kind of opening up conversations to this. But like I remember for us, like at that point, it wasn't even the fact that we were Latina at that point. It was the fact that we were women. And that was the first conversation always, where it was just like, oh, they're like young girls and they have so much potential. And so every interview that we did was constantly like, you know, these girls. And I remember even like at one point we were so young, and even before we could probably even understand what it meant to be a feminist, like we were asked all the time, like, are you guys feminists? And sometimes we would be even afraid to answer that question because A, we were ignorant to really what it meant. And because we were like 15 years old, like the stupid teenagers that, you know, didn't know shit. But at the same time, it was like, you know, now seeing how much the world has transformed and seeing that people are actually having these conversations. And now we can also, you know, embrace the side of us. Because it's the thing, like we've grown up in a Mexican house our entire life. Like our mother and father are both Mexican. We were born in Canada, but like our upbringing has been entirely Mexican. And I feel like in our previous band, it was like the first battle was just kind of like, okay, we're women trying to find a place in rock music. And I remember when there was like, major radio stations that would say like, you know what, we'll play them during indie hour because our demographic will not understand an all-female rock band at this time. And that was like 2004, you know what I mean, or 2005. And now you see bands like the Beaches or other all-female bands that exist, right? And they're all getting added to, radio, which is amazing to see. But that's the thing, like these conversations could not even be had at that point. And the only bands that were being noticed were bands that maybe had like one singular lead female singer, like for example, like Emily Hines from Metric, and an all-male backup band. So it has changed a lot, and I'm really excited to see that people are starting to you know what I mean, just kind of have open conversations about this. And especially now with like the Black Lives Matter movement, it's just, like, I'm not even lying. Like my sister and I just seeing everything that's happened, like we've, like we just feel so, like I can't even explain it. It's just because that's the thing, like we grew up in Canada, but even back in Mexico, for example, like this is like a real issue, like the way like Afro-Mexicans are treated, the way darker skinned Mexicans are treated. I think that there's also something to say about, the fact that, I mean, if I were to talk about myself personally, like I would be considered a white passing Latinx person. And so, I have a completely different skin color experience than someone who is Black. And that's like the reality of this world. So, I mean, I'm just so happy that, at this point, it's like, I get to embrace my Mexican roots. I get to speak in a language that is my mother tongue. I get to write music, this way. I get to embrace this part of my identity that is so important to me. But at the same time, I think it's very important that we keep having these conversations and, giving a platform to people that are really, having a hard time with what's happening, and it's a real thing. So I don't know. I think right now though too, like our focus as musicians has completely shifted. It's like, we don't really focus so much on like, oh, what's that next single going to be? Or like, oh, like, how many records are we going to sell? Like to us now, it's just like, if you're not saying something important, if you're not, raising up, voices that need to be raised, it's like, what the fuck are you really doing? Sorry, that was a pretty loaded answer. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm a pretty intense person. I'm sure you've noticed.
You were in a rock band. You are in a rock adjacent band, like.
Yeah, you should have met me as a teenager, man. I was like, that was a whole other experience.
Oh, that's funny. But no. To your point, well said, and I'm in agreement. It's seeing everything that's been happening, like at least for the amount of time, like the couple years I've been involved in this stuff, like see it's a change. It's a change. Even in like the past 5 years, I know it's a change, right? Like, right, like people are actually starting to actually just acknowledge like inherent biases, and people are starting like the amount of like I like my band, for example, I think just in terms of say the playlists are a thing now, right? We've only now in the past 2 months started actually getting on playlists outside of like maybe 5 friends, like people we don't know are starting to put us on lists, and a bunch of other Black musicians. Like I'm talking with people and like, yeah, this is the first time we've actually gotten this much attention, and I'm just like, what? Yeah.
And that's, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that like it's taken this long. And that's the thing, like this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking as well in terms of singing in your mother tongue, I remember seeing you guys perform Burn, which in your old band Magneto Lane. I remember when that song came out. I loved it, but like hearing it sung in Spanish, like I was just mesmerized. Like I was just mesmerized. I was just like, okay, I like this song even more now.
Thanks, man. You know what's funny? That song was actually like we already had the Spanish translation of that song when that video, like in its original form, came out all those many years ago. But the thing was, like the band, like, we just didn't, survive past like the 10-year thing. And at that point, like we had become completely different people, and just we're starting to write new projects. And French is still like a really dear friend of ours. She moved on to film, and that's like always been like a big passion for her. And that was the thing, like we just kind of had this like Spanish version of the song lying around, and we're like, I can't believe we haven't done anything with this. So, and also though to that song, and this is kind of like my thoughts around just music writing in general. Like if the song is good, it could be sung in any genre, and this is actually something I really love about like your songs as well. It's like I feel like you have such nice melodies to your music that you can literally make like a pop song out of it. You can make a rock song out of it. You can make a punk song out of it. You can make a classical song out of it. Like that's what makes a good song. And I guess I always thought that song had, and I mean, we thought the song had more of a lifespan than it got. And like I always think that vocal hook, it's like it's so dancey. You know what I mean? Like even from the moment where it was written, it was like this is like sounds like a dancey song from like the 90s. And we just wanted to have that opportunity to kind of do it in a different way. And so Lola just kind of seemed to fit perfectly for it. So when our our full length record finally comes out, it's actually going to include that song on it as well.
Stoked.
Yeah.
I'm even more excited for that release whenever it comes out.
Awesome.
All right. Cool. Now, my next question is also kind of in kind of representation aspect. Hair. Now, this seems like an odd type of question or generic question depending on like the type of interview, but like as a non-white person, as someone who comes from like the Caribbean, like I come from a Caribbean background, right? Like particularly in terms of music, right? Like you don't see like the type, like hair is a very weird thing. If anyone watching who is not from like a Caribbean, Latinx, or like a mixed black background, hair is kind of an interesting thing, like hair textures, straight hair, curly hair, and the different types of stuff. Like, even for example, like say, you take say Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy. My opinions of that band aside,
everyone's opinion.
Pete Wentz is one of the few like say few specifically like half Afro Jamaicans you'll find in like a prominent like band in kind of like outside of like reggae really. That a lot of people knew about, but a lot of people probably didn't realize he was like specifically like half Afro Jamaican. One of the things is also because like his hair, and I often tell people, yeah, like he just straightened his hair. That's why he was one of the reasons you didn't notice. So like watching you guys particularly as well, like seeing a band as well, seeing a band from like a similar cultural with members from similar cultural background as me, actually having the curly hair fly, like like that was kind of that I appreciate that, like seeing, like I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. Like, I don't know if that was a conscious choice at all, but I don't know if that was a conscious choice. But like, first off, like again, like I just love seeing like us laying our hair just kind of be how it just is. So, like, I know, was that like a conscious choice, or is that just like an awesome style choice? Which it's awesome. Dare I say?
It's just a part of me. Like I've tried straightening my hair before, and I just like don't feel like the same person. Like so, I just let it all natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think like ever since we were little kids, like my mom too. Like I feel like she kind of always let us embrace the fact that we liked having long hair. Like my hair was always long, but in Spanish, like we call it quebrado, which is like it's not straight, but it's not curly. It's kind of just like a big hot mess. But the older I get, like the more that I embrace that. Whereas like Nadia's hair, like she's got this like beautiful curly like textured hair, where my mom just like ever since we were kids, just like
She always took care of it.
yeah, she always took care of it, like always did. That actually makes me kind of emotional. That's so beautiful. Like my mom just, yeah, she was just kind of always like making sure that we would embrace who we were. And like, I remember even from the age of being like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, like we always had really, really long hair. It was always really natural. And my mom just did everything she could to make sure that it just stayed, you know, that way, but not in like a weird, like, you know, like, oh, I want my kids to look like cute little dolls. It was just kind of like, you guys be free, like, do your own thing. Like, into my, like, to the point my sister just made, like, I cut my glue and then it just got damaged at some point. But that's the thing, like, I can't imagine myself without long hair at this point. And same with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Your mom sounds amazing. Sounds like an amazing woman.
She is, yeah. She's a very amazing person. She's also very intuitive as well.
Nice.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, it runs in the family. Mama knows everything.
But yeah, like even in my case, like you know, like I used to always my hair I was just always kept short. But then a couple years ago I was like, yeah, I don't want to cut. I never liked getting my hair cut. I just did. And by the time I forget how old I was, but like pretty much like from about 2017, I just was like, I just don't want to. I don't want to keep cutting my hair. I'm done. Because I just like I decided to just let my natural like hair just kind of grow out and just kind of run free.
Exactly. I think you know what, that's kind of something I feel that happens to all of us naturally too. Like the older we get, it's like the more important it is for us to like kind of embrace like our own authenticity and our identity, and we stop giving a shit what other people think about us. And so I think that's kind of part of it too. You know, it's like I think it's beautiful that one day you'd be like, you know what, like I'm just kind of tired of doing this thing for other people, and like I feel more like myself like this, so I'm just gonna do it this way now. And I think everyone needs to do that. You know. Even if that means dyeing your hair green or like cutting a mohawk or, you know, doing whatever to it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
And you know, and you know, if and you know, I also always like to encourage people, like particularly like, you know, from again like backgrounds like ours, like, you know, like if that is what you desire, like, you know, like letting your hair kind of be how it is or growing out or whatever, like, you know, I often like kind of being kind of like to encourage people, you know, just like you don't have to conform to like that standard look, you know what I mean? You don't gotta like you know what I mean? You don't gotta like you don't gotta keep your hair a certain way just to say appease like beauty standards that are just that were not meant for you, know what I mean? It's just like just let the afro flow, or let the long curly hair kind of just let it be, you know what I mean?
100%. And that's the thing, the more you embrace yourself, I feel like the more like the world around you kind of responds in the same way, you know what I mean? So like I don't know, like it's funny, like I feel that when the more I used to fight my hair, like just the texture of it, I probably get more compliments for my hair now that it's just like it is what it is, you know what I mean? Maybe it's because like my face is not as stressed out, or maybe I feel more like, you know, confident in myself, or whatever that case may be. But I think it's just, you know, it is just so important to like embrace your own authenticity and to just love yourself the way you are, you know?
Agreed. Now,
I love these questions. They make me feel so good. I just want to give you like a big hug.
After Corona.
Yeah, after Corona.
agree.
Masks off and everything. Yeah.
Only another year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Such is life.
Yeah.
Such is life. Now,
I forgot about that for a second.
Now if only I can work some Caribbean black magic and get coronavirus to stop.
Yeah.
But on to back to the questions. So, my next question, right? So, in terms of say, keeping on in terms of say Latin Latinx musicians. Like, how what would you say the current, I guess, kind of like what what was the scene like specifically in that from that end, like in Toronto, Southern Ontario, like what is that what is that like, you know what I mean, like particularly now, you know what I mean, like I know there's like some there's been changes happening, some of which I've been involved. What the oh god. Well, sorry everybody. The oh oh my the well, the phone cut off. Um, gonna see if I can get them back. Gonna see if I can get them back. Hello?
Sorry, I don't know why it cut out. It just cut out.
Yeah, I
That
was
was
just
such a good question too.
no worries. All right. Lola is back, everyone. Excuse the technical difficulties.
We are alive. Yes.
I should get I should get music for that in between, but anyways, okay. So back to what I was saying. I'll carry off where I left off. Now, I know there's like there's been some changes, some of which I've been involved in. But like for example, I know people like with say Futuro Libre, for example, in terms of kind of I guess changing how things have, you know, changing how things have been working in that regard and for representation. But like what is that like in being Latinx musicians? Like they're kind of a cohesive, is there a cohesive like contingent of the scene, or like, you know, you know, like is there like this a growing consensus, like what is that like currently?
Man, that's an interesting question. Well, I'll tell you what it felt like, I guess, before this COVID thing happened, because I just feel like so much is happening right now. So we're still trying to navigate like exactly where we fit in. But what was so interesting to me, like when this project started, I think what now, like 2 years ago, I remember like at the beginning, like I was trying, like we were both trying to constantly like, you know, connect with other Latinx artists, like, you know, in the city or like, you know, in the country for that fact. And it was always us just asking like, who is there out there? Like, who can we talk to? And I remember being on like, you know, women in music message boards, like all these like community message boards. And it was always the same thing. It was like, okay, well, there's Lido. And then that was pretty much it. Like that was the suggestion that everyone would give us. But then I would keep hearing about two people, and everyone was just like, okay, first you need to talk to Sergio Nieves. He's got his own, you know, production company. Like they produce events, and they're called Futuro Libre. And basically, he's like, to me, he was like the only name that kept coming up all the time. And then it was actually yours, Daniel, as well. They were like, you know, this kid, he runs Lingua Franca. It's really cool. Like, and I was like, oh my God, like I want to meet these guys. Like that was, you know, and I actually remember like at the time I was actually working for Universal Music in their strategy department. And it was just so crazy how like I was like, man, like even just being on this side, it's like there was no one that we could connect with. And I just, you know, took it upon myself one day to send Sergio an email and be like, hey, man, like, it looks like we're the only, you know, Latinos, like, doing things in the independent music scene. And, you know, also, like, a friend of mine is Alex Veliz, who, like, he does more pop music, but we would always laugh and say how, like, you know, anytime Latinx artists were being interviewed, it was always, like, Lola and Alex Veliz, right? Like, it was just, you know, the reality was that it just felt like it was just very disconnected, and, you know, didn't feel like, you know, there was enough of a platform for any of us, to be honest. But now, like, you know, in meeting Sergio, you know, he introduced me to a lot of other bands. Like there's a band from Winnipeg called Mariachi Ghost. It's really cool. But to be honest, like I wish that the scene here for Latinos was like bigger, and not just like exploring like the spaces of like, you know, salsa music or like bachata or reggaeton or like the stuff that's like more like popular in Latin communities. But that's the thing, like what about the independent, you know, indie pop, independent music,